Welcome back to Cards and Comics. Today, before I get into the topic of today's video, I want to say thank you to anyone who's ever subscribed or watched one of my videos, because I've hit 1,000 subscribers, and that's for me, it's a big milestone, and it's just something that I never really thought would happen when I first started the channel. And after 3 years, I feel very energized and really want to do more content. And I like the different direction I've kind of switched my content into. It's easier for me to put out, and I also feel like I'm getting more engagement with it. So we're going to continue in this vein. And today I want to talk about underrated or undervalued 90s card sets, inserts, parallels. And with the escalation in prices for some of these cards, some of the really high-end sets out there, I wanted to highlight some of the lesser known, or just maybe confusing sets, because the 90s had a lot of weird sets, and just cards that have awesome designs, or were maybe some of the first to do something in the hobby and kind of have a historic value to the design, and just kind of highlight the sets that are out there that aren't getting all the let's say the publicity of the essential credentials, or the 24 karat brilliance cards, or the man refractors, or established. There's a lot of these card sets that are very well known to a lot of collectors, but there's a lot of stuff from the 90s that were really cool looking cards. Some of them had very low print runs, but they're just not as popular, so they're just not as expensive. I want to kind of highlight some of those sets. So today I'm going to talk about one of the most confusing sets that was produced in the 90s, and that's the Fractal Matrix card set, or later on the Fractal Materials, or Fractal Foundation. See how it gets confusing, guys? It's already confusing. So let's start up with the basics. There was 3 sets made that have what most collectors call the Fractal Matrix, or the Fractal designs. So in 1997, it was an insert or a parallel in leaf. In 1998, it was another parallel in leaf. And the 97 and 98 sets are very similar. And then Leaf said, hey, we got kind of a winner idea in our hand. We're going to make a whole set dedicated to this idea of the fractal idea. And they called it Fractal Materials, or the cards themselves were labeled Fractal Foundations. And that has a very different design than the other sets, and we'll talk about it. And I'm going to focus this video on the more rare inserts that were in that set, and what I call kind of a hidden rarity in that set that not a lot of people know about. So we'll get right into it with the 97 set. And I've created an actual little cheat sheet I'll show for some of the rarity. Now, the 97 set, again, was in leaf, and the product itself was in a normal hobby box, 2 series. So it wasn't a special box, it was a parallel. And you can see in the Baseball Cardpedia, they list the cards with their parallel designation. So GY would mean it's a gold parallel with a Y-axis die cut. And if you go down in Baseball Cardpedia, it'll show you examples of the different die cuts. So here is a X die cut, here is a Y die cut, and this is a Z die cut. So a lot of people think in this set that you got gold, silver, and bronze, and X, Y, and Z. That means that you could have up to 9 parallels of each card, but that's not true. Every card in this set only has 2 versions. They have a colored parallel and a colored die cut. And the die cut's always the same color as the colored parallel. So, for example, you either have gold or gold die cut. And it's always going to be one version of the die cut. So you only have 2 versions of a card. Now, Baseball Cardpedia has this nice little chart here for 97 set, which shows you that the different colors, bronze, silver, gold, X-axis, Y-axis, and Z-axis, and the print runs. So the first number is the base card, the second number is the die cut. So the bronze die cut for X has 1600 base, 400 die cuts, right? The rarest cards that the rare parallels are Z-axis are the most rare, no matter what color. Bronze, silver, and gold are all out of 100. So it doesn't matter if you're looking at a bronze Griffey or a gold Griffey. If they're both Z-axis die cuts, they're out of 100. Doesn't matter what color they are. Now the hidden parallel is the base gold X. So you can see that the base gold X-axis cards are actually rarer than the die cuts. And that's just due to how they built the set. They build a set with every time they have an X-axis die cut, there's 400 of them. But there's only 500 gold cards to begin with. Kind of a hidden parallel for people to kind of discover and kind of find on their own. I made a little cheat sheet here. So in 1997, you have 10 of these Gold X base cards. What's very odd is that there's only 10 Gold X base cards, while there's 49 Gold Z-axis. So they made a lot of the set to be Gold Z-axis. Like if you looked at how this set was designed, it was pretty much designed like it was a Topps Finest type set. I think this is Leaf's reaction to the 96 Finest set, which had gold, silver, and bronze refractors. They went one above and said, we'll do gold, silver, and bronze, but we'll do different die cuts because they didn't have the refractor technology. They had the die cut technology. So they did die cuts, but instead of making the set like Topps did, which if you look at the Topps set, you have more you have more bronze cards, more silver cards than gold. So bronze was the highest amount of cards, silver was next, and then gold had the fewest amount of cards available. So you didn't have, the majority of the set as gold. You had the majority of the set as bronze and silver, right? And if you look at the die cuts, it's the opposite. There's more gold than silver and more silver than bronze. And the X-axis base card is actually the rarest in terms of number of cards made. There's only 10 of those. Very odd. And I want to show you some pricing on 97 set. So if you look at the 97 set, this is the reason why I think it's such a great product to try to find in terms of just really good value, because here's an Andy Pettitte card, Z-axis die cut. So stated print run is 100. You see another Z-axis Griffey for $40. So where are you going to find really cool die cut Griffey cards from the 90s that have a stated print run of 100 for $40? That's why the set is really cool, because not a lot of people understand that bronze card is the same rarity as the gold card above it. And I think that is what's made this set so confusing and also kind of undervalued. Now, I want to throw out a caveat. The 97 set in particular has reportedly had backdoored cards. I don't know if that's actually true or not, or how many cards were printed extra, but that has also, to me, depressed some of the value of the cards, is that since they're not numbered, like some of the Fractal Matrix cards we'll talk about are, since they're not numbered, people sometimes, are a little leery of really going in heavy and paying a lot for these cards, because there could have been some backdooring, and, are they really 100 cards? Do we really know how many were printed? And again, $2 or $3, $14, $15 for a McGuire, $13 for an A-Rod, another, going for $30. So again, there's the Ripken for $5.50. I feel like just alone, even if you don't feel like maybe the 100 print run is not realistic, they're still pretty cool looking cards for $3, $5, $10, $15, which is what a lot of them cost. So we'll move on to the 98 set. Here is the 98 set. It's very similar in design as the 97 set with bronze, silver, and gold again, and X, Y, and Z die cuts. The design of the cards are a little different. So again, that's bronze, silver, X, Y, and Z axis is right here. And I make mistakes talking about the set too. I always view it like this. X will be, just the top, Y will be the sides, and Z's are going to be both top and sides die cut. And that's very consistent for both years. And again, it has, the same pattern as 97. The Z-axis die cut cards are out of 100, and then the gold X base card is out of 100. Now, in 98, they did something different. They included an extra parallel, and this was called Diamond Axis, or Diamond Axis. Diamond Axis were numbered, hallelujah, to 50. And they have a really pretty blue color foil with etching on them. So they're very nice cards if you ever get to hold one in hand. Really, really nice cards. Now, you have to be careful that they did a promo for these cards that were sent to dealers or through other channels. I don't know exactly how they were distributed, but the promotional cards have double X for the first number and /50. And I know some people get those confused, or they buy the card thinking it's a real pack pulled number to 50 card, and it's really the promo card numbered XX out of 50. So just be careful for that. So if you look at these cards, the 98 set, I think the 98 set looks nicer than the 97 set. I think the Z-axis die cut is a nicer looking die cut. And you can see still the cards aren't really that expensive. There's a Z A-Rod for $20. You'll see, the Nomar for 15, 16. I think they are very undervalued again, because I do think when you hold them in hand, you see that die cut and that etching in the foil, they look really premium. So Leaf thought, again, they had a kind of a hit on their hands. They decided to kind of one-up this concept or design. They issued a set called Fractal Materials or Fractal Foundation. And this set was actually much different than the other two sets that were issued as parallels. This was its own standalone set in 1998. So the 98 Leaf Fractal Materials, again, is a standalone set using the same design and photography as the 98 Leaf set. Actually, sort of the same design, but they actually switched up the photos. So the great thing about the 98 Leaf Fractal Material set right off the bat is you get a different photo of the player. So if you've collected the Fractal Matrix 98 card, when you get the Fractal Materials card, it's a different photo. If you go to how they designed rarity or scarcity, they got away from the gold, silver, and bronze, and they actually use different types of materials, right? So there is plastic, nylon, wood, and leather. And if you get down here, the hardest to get cards were wood, numbered to 250. The nylon were next to 500. Leather were 1,000, and plastic were 3,250. So easiest was plastic, hardest was wood. Then if you get down to the die cuts, they say the first, for the X-axis, the first 200 cards were die cut. For Y-axis, the first 100. And the Z-axis, the first 50. And of course, this creates some opportunities for some cool short prints. The wood grain cards are sort of the chase. The base cards, there's only 250 copies, no matter of the die cuts or base cards available, just 250 of the wood per player. And then they also issued up what they call a Z2 axis. So the Z2, just like in the 98 set when you had the diamond access, which was numbered to 50, and it had a different color foil and different die cut, they did the same idea in 98 Fractal Matrix with Z2 access numbered to 20. So, and it's just a different die cut. There's no foil or no different. It's just a different die cut, and it's numbered to 20. The cards that are numbered out of 50 are either the wood Z access die cuts, of which there's only a few players. And if you go based on the math, again, the first 200 X wood cards are die cut. So that means that the regular X axis wood cards are only have 50 copies that exist. And again, the good thing about these cards, unlike the Fractal Matrix cards of 97, 98, these are serial numbered. So you know there's only 250 wood cards that exist. And so Tony Gwynn, Ivan Rodriguez, Paul Molitor, Larry Walker, and Scott Rowland's base X card, wood, that's not die cut, only has 50 copies each. The same as the wood Z axis die cut. So similar to the gold X axis in the 97, 98 set, the wood X axis card only has 50 copies. So when you look at on eBay of some of the sales of the cards, and I'm going to just focus on the wood cards, you'll see that a base Griffey, sold for $9, but you can see, some of the wood cards and some of the Z cards, and even this super rare Z2 access, number to 20, they're not bringing thousands of dollars. There's $20 for an Ivan Rodriguez, X-axis die cut, which has 200 copies that exist for $20. There is a base Ivan Rodriguez, which we said only has 50 copies for $57, right? So it's really cool to see that there are, there's a Chipper Jones Z-axis, which is again out of 50. Andy Pettit, number to 20 for $70. So these might be a little more expensive than the previous cards I showed, which were all in that. A lot of them were in the $10 to $15 range. Even the Griffey was $40. These are serial numbered. That's the reason why you see that price disparity. So when you say that Andy Pettit's out of 20, it's numbered out of 20. That Chipper Jones Z-axis, yeah, there's only 250 number copies, but there's only 50 die cuts because the first 50 are numbered, and you can tell which ones are die cut and which ones aren't. That's a big difference. That's why these have the prices they do. And so if you want to kind of stick around, I'll show you what my cards look like and kind of go over, what they look like in person and some of the differences in the cards that I have. And if not, you can go ahead and turn off the video. All right, guys, here I am showing off some of my collection. So we'll start in 97. And again, it'll be mostly Griffey's, but just want to show you some of the differences and to give you an idea of what these cards kind of look like in hand. So the first card I'm going to show you is the gold X-axis, right? So again, we said that the gold X-axis Griffey card this year was stated print run 100. So this card stated print runs 100. And I'm trying to show it off without getting too much glare, but it's kind of hard. There we go. It kind of shows you that, Dufexy etched foil coolness right there. So that's the first one. And then the other card out of 100 that's in the set is the Legacy bronze foil Z-axis die cut. So there you go. Z-axis die cut. So that's really cool. And you can see on the base cards here, they didn't put the die cut. They had it on the actual die cut. So you can tell what die cut it was. So again, one of the confusing parts of the set is these cards have the same stated print run. And if you're conditioned to be like a 96 and 97 finest collector, everyone knows that the bronze cards are easier to get than the gold.
And here it doesn't work that way. It's really, what the access is. And a gold base card and a Z axis die cut bronze are the same stated print runs. And then here is the gold die cut. So as a kid, I remember when I was collecting these or seeing these cards for the first time, I would have always guessed that this card was rarer than this card because it's a gold die cut, not knowing that the Z-axis die cuts were much rarer than the X-axis die cuts. So this is out of 400, this is out of 100. And so that just shows you sort of like, even as, a kid and having access to Beckett's, but they didn't explain things as well as Baseball Cardpedia does today. But, there was a lot of just confusing parts of the set back in the day when it first came out, that this and this card were the same print run, or this card was 4 times as easier to get than either one of these two cards. And I actually would have thought that the die cut would be harder to get than the regular card, and that's not the case. The regular card is 4 times harder to get than this card, which is very confusing. But if you learn sort of the intricacies of the set, it makes it easier to collect. So let's go to 98. Oh, one more, 97. I actually have 2 copies of that die cut. So there you go. That's the SGC 10. So we go to 98. Here is the Z-axis fractal matrix. So again, this is stated print run 100. I didn't show the backs. Here's the backs of 97 and 98. Again, no print runs, nothing telling us what this is out of. Either 97 or 98, but there you go. There's the 98 back. Here is the front. And the cool thing about the front of the 98 set, which I didn't really talk about, it's easier to show you. It has sort of that almost superfractor type, I guess, swirl pattern. It's more like triangles, I guess you would say, than the swirl pattern on superfractors. But it is not just etched. It's got a very unique pattern to it. It looks really cool. And then the Fractal Materials card, here you go. This is the Ken Griffey Jr. This is the base. So this is out of 200, and you can see they are numbered. So the first 50 in this would have been die cut. The remaining 200 cards would be base. If this card was a X-axis, not a Z-axis card, this would be numbered. This would be actually out of 50. So, and the card number would be like 201 or later to be a base card. And again, that's confusing, right? A lot of people would say, like, if this was the X and it was die cut, just like before, you would think the die cut would be rarer than the regular base card, but in the X wood, that's not the case. Fractal Matrix cards, I don't have any of the Z2s, but I do have the Diamond Access Griffey, or at least one of them, coming to me in the mail. And when I get it, I'll show it on the channel. That'll be a really cool card. It's numbered out of 50. So that's a really cool pickup. And if I just, show them all kind of all together to give you kind of like, what they all look like kind of like as a grouping. They're just really nice looking cards. For a lot of Griffey cards that, have stated print runs of around 100, I certainly didn't pay the going rate of a numbered out of 100 Griffey card. What these cards normally, if these were, let's say a chrome refractor or something like that, I couldn't touch some of these cards for the prices that I paid. So that's the good thing, is very nice looking cards, cool looking die cuts, cool history. I mean, you got a wood material card. I mean, a lot of just stuff going on, etched foil, die cuts, and all at reasonable prices comparatively, because these are Griffey cards. But if you had Cal Ripken or Tony Gwynn or Vlad Guerrero or any other Hall of Famer that isn't even Frank Thomas, those prices are much lower than Griffey, so they're very affordable. So there it is, guys. That's my video on the Fractal Matrix, Fractal Materials, Fractal Foundations, Fractal cards made in 97, 98. Again, some of the most confusing but coolest looking cards you've ever seen. And I'll see you next time on Cards and Comics. Bye.